Great to hear from Thiak there from the Latin American side, and really good to bring us into our next match, which is, of course, going to be Latin America and Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia out of the tournament, not going to be able to make it in for that grand final series, but Latin America, if they win this, they can jump up into contention with Turkey and, of course, CIS
yeah,
for that spot.
And that will be a confirmed final if the LATAM team win, I believe it is. No, it's if SEA win.
Yeah, if SEA win, then it's a confirmed final between Turkey and CIS, which will be very exciting because both of these teams looking dominant today.
Yeah, so I think if you're in the CIS team or the Turkish team, you're kind of hoping that SOFM doesn't go off in the beginning of this game, because that generally has been how the SEA team can actually carry through games. Is SOFM gets very fed. This is what we saw on day one. Then they allow G4 and Archie to take over. The problem with yesterday's games was the drafts from the SEA squad just were a little bit suspect. Picking Diana into Malphite, and, you know, G4 got ahead, but as soon as you get into that fight where Malphite just blows everybody up in the air and you can't deal any more damage, it's pretty much over at that point. And that was a problem throughout all of yesterday's games for the Southeast Asian region. Yeah,
and there's also the fact that, you know, they got so far ahead and then couldn't translate any of that lead into a victory. I mean, G4 was 5-0, something like that, having a complete field day. His Diana looked unstoppable until it didn't.
Yeah, it did look unstoppable until it didn't. That, I guess, is one way of putting it. But we will be getting into game fairly shortly, as we still waiting on a couple of players in the lobby. But we'll be there fairly soon. But looking at this this lineup here between these two, the LATAM team have done such a better job than I think some people expected. Even to us, they've been very consistent when you look at it. Taking the fight, they've been very fun to watch as well. I've really enjoyed seeing a lot of their performances that we've seen over the last couple of days.
Yeah, and I just want to look to Saya here in the mid lane as well as Thiak, who we just saw in that video, because Thiak is the only one that's really been able to make the Mundo work today. And he played it alongside the Anivia, and they played sort of as controlled as they like and made sure that their team comp actually worked around this powerful pick. I mean, a lot of these teams look to be finding the Mundo and saying, okay, well, this is just really, really strong at the moment, so we're going to pick it, but they don't necessarily pick it into the right circumstance. And it looks like Latin America, their draft phase especially, has been very, very strong, and they've been able to get around these mid-game team fights beautifully. And we'll see whether they can utilize that here against SEA, which can literally do anything. You can't predict this team.
Yeah, you can't. All you can predict is that they're going to try and go aggressive.
They'll go in,
or at least they should go aggressive, because there were games where they kind of didn't. They had the team composition for it, didn't really want to push their advantage, and didn't really get too much from it. But one person I do really want to look at to see if he gets Fiora again is going to be Helior in that top lane.
Yeah.
I mean, earlier, yes, there was the Mundo, which Thiak just kind of AFK farmed for the first 6 minutes, got to level 6 and showed up, but Helior really turned it on in that Aurelia matchup, and that made it so difficult for the Japanese team earlier today.
Yeah.
If they do that again, we'll see what Archie can actually throw back at the LATAM team. I wonder what Archie's got hidden up his sleeve.
Well, he's got a lot. Of course, Archie, formerly of many different roles. This guy has been seen around the traps for a very long time, so we'll see what he does decide to pick up. Of course, has picked up the new meta quite well, has played the Gangplank as well, but Jax, not going to be seen. Helior, we'll see what he decides to ban away. We'll see what they have in mind. Gangplank going to leave the Rift as well. Makes a lot of sense, G4 or Archie. A 2-for-1 special, I think, with that ban.
Yeah, that is a nice 2-for-1. Elise being banned again on blue side, looking to open up maybe for the likes of the Tahm Kench that we've seen. We've still got Misfortune available at this point. So many picks still up. Okay, jungle prioritization. Elise, Rek'Sai banned out.
Evelynn hasn't been banned. Thiak, he's looking at these bans going, what, are you going to first pick Evelynn?
I mean, there's Lee Sin for SOFM, there's Rengar for SOFM. I would assume this is going to be, they'll leave one of them, whether it's the Eve, the Lee Sin.
It's really weird, though, because neither of these junglers have found success on these champions.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's actually
really strange that they're the ones that are going to be banned away. But Mundo is going to leave the Rift. LATAM giving a lot of respect to that champion, not wanting to give SOFM a chance to find another victory on him. Archie now with the first pick. Quinn would be an odd choice.
It would be an odd choice. She has been reworked as well. This is the after the first rework Quinn.
Yeah, this is transportation Quinn.
Yes, this is
she is
special
literally
delivery,
just public transport bird. It's fantastic.
Home guard mobility boots. Get to lane in 6 seconds, Quinn.
Pick me up. We got to get there. It's like, you killed me. It doesn't matter. I'll be back in my lane.
I'll be back. It's
5 seconds later.
All good. I'm looking at what else the SCA team have first picked. A lot of what they've prioritized has been banned. Callista they've looked at. That was a red side game that they picked that up, which is still available. And I guess kind of goes along the same vein that Quinn was in. It is an 80
Optimus, yeah, they have picked up a lot of, I guess, prioritization on the AD carry. Thiak once again hovering the Rammus. I like it a lot. Malphite has, of course, been banned one more time. And without Mundo there, Thiak may actually go towards the Rammus, but just a hover for now. We've heard whispers of how strong this champion is.
Whispers.
Nearly whispers at this stage, though.
I've seen it terrorizing solo queue as well. But
that's true. I think Rammus has been always terrorizing solo queue.
For good and bad ways. We have players in Europe that just are notorious, even in competitive games, who go and teleport home guard Rammus just at all times. Just get in there, gank. Nobody can gank like it, but I'm not expecting it this early on in the draft. I guess kind of against Tristana until Tristana can get armor penetration. High armor targets are fairly effective. Because she is a scaling AD carry. I'm not expecting it.
Surprise.
Yeah, that's much better. That's what I expect.
Yeah, that's what we expected from Latin America at the moment. Just hovering over the Rammus for quite some time, but it is going to be Thiak's famous Evelyn, as well as Helios' very successful Fiora that we did see earlier on. SOFM, though,
hello.
He's got the Ignite, he's got the Smite, and he's got the Nidalee now as well. So we're talking about skirmishing, jumping around the jungle, being a menace. It's exactly what SOFM likes to do, and definitely something Nidalee likes to do as well. G4, cycling through some assassins. He's got a champion pool that is more of a champion ocean, though. He can pick up whatever he wants, and that's going to be the Brad. Moss is going to try and work on his Dumbledoge impression, see whether he can outperform those Tempered Fates, which were so good in the last game.
They were, but Dumbledoge not in this one. I haven't seen Moss really picking up Bard too much. Seen a lot of Morgana, seen a lot of Thresh from him. So this is a bit of a departure. Still looking for those bindings, this time more cosmic.
The cosmic version.
I'm looking at this Nidalee pick. We have not seen Nidalee out of the jungle in a very long time. Half a season, I would estimate. Roughly, because Nidalee
we haven't seen her so far at IWCA, and this is sort of the first tournament that is on this preseason patch. Of course, there have been some over in China, but I have a feeling that Nidalee hasn't been played there either.
I mean, Nidalee likes to... Well,
wow, White Lotus locked in the Ezreal.
Yeah, I wonder whether this is mid lane, and Say is going for the mid Ezreal that we just saw out of Syros earlier. I'll talk a little bit about Nidalee as we get into the game and the exact interaction. I kind of expect that is going to be actually AD Ezreal. I don't know why you'd go.
Well, Say has also been so good on these control mages with a whole bunch of bursts that he can lay down, like the Lissandra, the Anivia there as well. He was so strong. But G4 says, no, you're not going to be playing Lissandra this game, because I am. And Hecarim now being considered Archie, already switched over those summoner spells. He's going to be galloping around the top lane, see whether he can deal with the Fiora.
Okay, so I don't mind this so much because there's a couple of things that interactions later into the game that Lissandra and Fiora are going to come up with. Lissandra, we saw earlier, get kind of decimated in the actual in-lane matchup, but as soon as the riposte is gone, it's basically a war of timing now between G4 and Helio. Can he riposte the Frozen Tomb that comes from Lissandra, or does he have to use riposte on something earlier, like on the Hecarim crowd control, at which point you instantly get the crowd control onto Fiora, and she can't do anything in the fight, gets absolutely blown up. It's a timing issue, but we have seen that Helio was pretty good with those ripostes earlier.
Well, that's how Fiora works as well. Yeah. It's all about the mind games that you can create with that riposte ability. See whether he's going to be able to make it work. Saya now, they have locked in the Hecarim, so Archie's going to be taking the horse to the top lane. Narse now considering the rise for Saya. It is going to be locked in. Lots of late game damage, and White Lotus, our first AD carry Ezreal that we are going to see at the IWCA. See what he decides to pick up, because of course Ezreal gone through a couple of minor changes, but I just want to see the Rageblade Ezreal.
Well, we'll see. I'm still not really expecting it. I mean,
stack it up, True Shot Barrage to the face, so much damage.
I'm more expecting the additional cooldown, as Yamato was alluding to.
Well, true,
earlier.
yeah.
You go for that Essence Reaver, you start really building up that cooldown.
Doesn't mean you can't still do it, Stress.
That's very true.
Go for all of them. get all the items.
That is true. One other thing that Ezreal does have that's quite nice just to have in his back pocket is because of the cast time on Tempered Fate. You just shift out of the Fate and get yourself away. So we'll see.
Yeah, having the extra safety is going to be very, very useful. But I'm looking at Theak to really control this early game as well. With the Rise hanging out there in the mid lane, does tend to paint a target onto himself quite a lot. Helior wants to take over his top lane as well, and if Archie can get control of that, it could be a problem here for the Latin American side. So we'll see whether Theak can get around, use his Evelyn, make sure he utilizes the stealth effectively in order to get himself around the rift and into situations that can really dominate his opponents. And I'm excited to see him back on his signature champion.
I am too. I'm really looking forward to this game. And, you know, I think the one thing that can cover for the Ezreal in this situation for White Lotus, it's very different from the Vayne that we've seen previously, is the fact that they have the Rise for the late game damage. Fiora, once she gets ahead, should be able to stay ahead. But against the Hecarim, it's melee matchup. Tends to do fairly well for Hecarim, so we'll see exactly
helicopter
how
around. Don't get the minion aggro, but we are going to hop onto Summoner's Rift, ladies and gentlemen, of course. Make sure you let us know who you want to take this game. GPL win using the hashtag on Twitter, or hashtag LA win if you want Latin America to win this game.
Win. It's all good. It's all good. Well, whoever does win, potentially, well, actually not SEA, so not whoever, but it is all on the line for the actual...
Latin America, this is do or die right now. They have to beat the GPL, and the GPL, I mean, they just love playing League of Legends. They love killing people, and they're going to try their very best to deny Latin America their opportunity to get into that final.
And to keep it in mind, the finals plus the 1v1s, all the points is all going together to determine which of the wildcard teams will go to LA. That was where I was going with the
nice.
LA. I was going there. We got there in the end. To compete in
LA to LA
All-Star tournament with North America and Europe and Korea and China.
Yeah, All-Stars from across the globe, stress.
I'm looking forward to seeing. You need performances like Turkey had today if you want to compete against the, I guess, premier regions is one way of putting it. But that was Turkey. We'll see whether the LATAM team can live up to the same kind of expectation, because they do need a win here to put themselves in the final tomorrow, which will be going for that massive amount of points, that 90 points for first place in the 5v5 tournament. But Nidalee jungle, haven't seen it in a while. One of the big proponents in Europe for it, even after the changes to the jungle, was Svenskeren.
Yeah.
As a former SK player. And it's very good well, it used to be very good, if you can maintain a lead. You can get a lot of damage out of Nidalee in the jungle. Tank Nidalee isn't going to do so much in this game anymore. She's going to get outscaled pretty heavily by the rest of the LATAM team and won't have too much of an effect. So I wonder whether SOFM is going to go full damage. That is one area with this Ignite that I'm expecting him to go towards. Find Theak in the jungle, take him out, get a lead, and snowball.
Yeah, and so far he's just been taking down the minor camps as well. So those Raptors are done after the Krogs, then moving over, picking up some puppies, then may grab himself a blue buff. We'll see what he decides to do. Theak, though, has taken his red, is now moving towards his blue buff. Very interesting. Now they've got vision. Of course, G4 moving into the jungle, making sure he knows exactly where Evelyn is. Getting wards on the camps, exactly what you want to do to spot out for the Eve.
And not only that, Nidalee has the traps available as well.
Yeah.
So once you can get into the enemy jungle and stay there for a little while, there are extra tools to keep a track of Evelyn throughout this game, but we're a little way away from that. Warding will suffice for now, and it's all heavily favored around Archie's top lane, trying to spot Eve as far out as possible.
And that red buff still hasn't been taken here for SOFM, so interesting. Just going to go for the full clear, leave the red buff up, wait until he can use that smite on it.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things, is Nidalee in the current state of things, going around the jungle early, is still fairly squishy. So a lot of it is about how much damage you're taking from kiting, and red buff is a formidable opponent without smite.
The Crimson Brambleback.
Yes, do not want to try and take him on without your smite available.
Theak already trying to get something done here. Makes it into the brush. Not going to be spotted. The Moss or Optimus. Now going to come in. There's the flayback. Has been discovered. Hate Spite's coming out. They're trying to get their way over onto these relics. The magical journey, comes out. They don't follow him through. Moss is going to survive for now.
This allows Archie to keep putting the pressure on top lane. You can see him pushed very far up in the lane. As soon as they spot Evelynn, there's no real danger, no teleport or anything like that on Seiya in the middle lane. So Archie is having a lot of freedom up here. 23 CS to 12. Both have that corrupting potion, but he does still have 2 stacks, so should be okay. Archie can never really go aggressive under the tower. At this point, Fiora would just riposte any attempt at crowd control. So it is more of just trying to zone Helios off the minion wave and just stop him from getting anywhere near even CS. And it's working for now.
Yeah, most certainly is. G4, is pushing up this mid lane just over and over again, but Seiya, he's holding on to this minion lead. You can see he's still got creeps heading towards this turret, doing a great job farming as he's getting shoved. As we look here on the bottom side, after Theak did make an appearance, White Lotus has begun pushing up this wave as well, but Optimus farming out fantastically. So the opposite experience here for the GPL on the bottom side of the Rift when the farming seems to be going their way as opposed to that mid lane. But G4 has, of course, already gone back, picked up the blasting one. We'll see whether he can utilize that to gain a bit of an advantage. Moss, Magical Journey, going to get himself back behind Optimus here and into safety.
Very much safety, but that's the second time they've had to use that wall with the Magical Journey, getting not quite caught out on that attempt, but you know, Moss is okay. It's a different type of champion. He's having to like save himself here rather than Thresh just saving other people.
That's the weird part, is seeing Moss not on the Thresh, because it's just so impressive when we do, but none of those players to come out, just the Bard variety. We'll see what he's going to be able to do this game as Theak going to make his way towards the top lane. Wants to put some pressure onto Archie, of course. Doesn't have any way out of a gank, as Theak is going to get discovered. Nice ward in that top rush from the horse.
Archie is almost level 6. This big minion stack in front of him should be enough. Also look at G4 roaming up top as well, so it was just covering in case of any kind of attempt. That will keep him out of lane for a little while. So the CS lead for Seiya is starting to expand right now.
Oh, Spear very close to landing on a White Lotus here as SOFM pokes his head around. He's already level 6. He's been farming up this jungle like a monster. Ward goes into the brush, but he hasn't had enough yet. Moss looking for the Cosmic Binding, does get the stun. Arce, fantastic block of that spear. Means the White Lotus is going to be okay for now, but Moss, he may have to go back.
Just the SEA team not able to push up solidly under the tower at that point. They were looking for the dive. Good read that it wasn't on, though. With the minion wave joining, couldn't get the Nidalee spear through.
Moss.
Also, Arce did catch the spear, but I mean, I'm glad to see they realize that without that spear landing, there is no gank to happen. Otherwise, the number of teams you've seen kind of going deep under a tower like that, needlessly throwing away any chance in an early game.
No,
really
it's not a good idea. That being said, when you see the GPL play, you think, all right, well, they're probably going to die.
Probably.
Most of the time.
I'm interested now, itemization-wise, to see what the AD carries are going to do. Optimus right now has the BF sword, so big amount of damage that's going to come from him. Will Ezreal go the tier route and look for a stacking itemization, looking then for the Iceborne Gauntlet later? Will he opt for the Essence Reaver first? That's what he's going for. He's picked up the BF sword, so is going to match the power at this point in the game against Tristana. And then I wonder whether he'll end up going Iceborne Gauntlet later, or whether he'll just look for a more traditional AD carry build.
Yeah, I would like the Trinity Force just because of the fact that it will give you that 40% CDR.
Yep.
Get to that point where Mystic Shots will be coming out like Machine Gun. I do like that a lot. But we'll see. Of course, having the extra CC with that slow would be a good idea as well. 800 gold now, the lead for the Southeast Asian lineup. Archie going the full tank route with the 20% CDR already picked up with that Glacial Shroud and the Kindle Gem. Very strange. I was expecting something like a Trinity Force for Archie first up just to try and give himself some lane pressure, but Elior going to have a difficult time against him now just because he's going to be so tanky.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Archie knows that he's already a fair amount up in this lane, but will concede to Helios the longer this game goes. When you look at how that matchup goes, Hecarim can only do well for so long. Once Fiora gets a couple of items, it's okay.
Oh
Great
my goodness, Arce with the flash blade doesn't land a death sentence as the teleports are coming in left, right, and center. Archie and G4 both turn the tide. is going to be the Tempered Fate landing, but Archie just waits for it. White Lotus gets feared back, and the GPL are going nuts onto the Latin American team. That is a double kill, and look, everyone was invited to that party, and the GPL came out ahead.
But the reaction time from the SEA team, teleporting in right after a reactive flash flay on the jump, really nice counter engage out of the SEA team. Just the attempt to punish Optimus, I like what the LATAM team were trying to do there, but the numbers advantage from the double teleport is so good for the SEA squad, and you can see Archie able to get in there as well, use the Onslaught of Shadows. And we were wondering how good is Moss's Bard.
Pretty
gets
good.
The Tempered Fate, gets 2 bindings during that engage. Pretty solid, I would say.
Yeah, most definitely. And locking down White Lotus there on the Ezreal as well meant that they confirmed the 3rd kill in the bottom lane. And that was first blood, actually. Sort of not the bloody game you'd be expecting here, even though it's only 10 minutes. First time anyone getting anywhere, but we're looking at this team. They do have the rise. Seiya has been quite quiet, still even up on that farm. That is a Rod of Ages completed now, almost exactly at 10 minutes for G4. Well and truly accelerated after that gank in the bottom lane.
And speaking of accelerated farming going on right now from the jungle.
That is true. Archie, though. Oh my goodness, turning it around, forcing the flash. That riposte was not great.
Nope.
From Helior, and Archie just says, yep, you can grand challenge me, but I'm going to win.
I love that Archie, because the riposte timing from Helior is based on the fact that he has to use the riposte right as Archie is coming towards him. It has to be soon enough that Archie hasn't connected yet, but Archie just runs around. He takes the long route and kind of loops over the top and uses the knockback. So Helior's got to be a little bit more careful with that. SOFM.
Yeah, Pounce not going to do it. Theak's going to pick up the first kill for Latin America. Archie trying to turn this one around. They do have the man advantage, but there's a very low Evelyn. Helior thinks, no, we can do this, man, but seems like Archie thinks that he can grab this one as well. Riposte comes in. That was a little bit better that time, but Theak going to be there. Oh my goodness, the Onslaught of Shadows. Archie so incredibly low. That juggling was fantastic. Latin American side grab a second.
Just dancing
Meanwhile,
around.
in the bottom lane, that's going to be a double kill. White Lotus and Arce both falling down.
And they got the tower as well, but dancing around the tower aggro range for Archie, he was so close to getting a double kill, but knew he couldn't all in on Helior or Theak because they were just under tower radius. It was a great attempt, but down in that bottom lane, what happened was the tower went down, and then a hook landed, I believe, from Arce as the chase was happening. Tempered Fate comes out. White Lotus just then, oh, it was a double stun again from Moss. That was the bit that we didn't see. And easy cleanup for Optimus on Tristana in the bottom lane. Oh, Helios dead again.
SOFM getting a little bit of revenge. And yeah, he's only 9 CS behind the top laner at the moment. SOFM, he's got his Runeglaive, now building towards some more damage, has a couple of books. I don't know what he's going to be building. Is that going to be like a Gunblade?
He's a very well-educated cat right now.
He is.
But, you know, I feel like in this game, SOFM just was like, okay, I'm sick of playing like Rengar. I don't want to play Lee Sin this game. Just give me Nidalee. Just let me farm for like 10 minutes, and then I'll, you know, help carry you guys.
Yeah, he just wants to be like a solo laner.
Yeah, he wants to, but then he got caught out in the enemy jungle. Moss is caught out under his own turret.
He's so dead. Theak's going to be able to pick up the kill. Seiya tanks up the turret. Not a lot of play-by-play there when there's 1,000 spells going at once and then a very dead Bard. Buys some time, though. This top lane turret is going to fall. The GPL able to put pressure when it has been relieved. See Theak hanging around his red buff is in a little bit of trouble potentially because there are a lot of members of the GPL up here, but not going to happen. Arce just going to hang around and help him out. Optimus is going to back away. White Lotus. See what he decides to buy here. It is going to be the Essence Reaver as the first item. Very close to finishing it. Only another 400 gold, and he will have that in his back pocket. G4 playing up so fast. True Shot Barrage going to clear out the wave. This is what G4 does, though. As soon as he has any lead, he's just a menace.
Yeah, he becomes pretty oppressive in the lane. As soon as he recognizes he can actually get ahead of you and stay ahead. You can see that Seiya just has to respect the claw going forward. I mean, he knows G4's not going in, because of the number of people around mid lane, but Seiya always has to keep in the back of his mind, is this coming? Are there other people around the lane? Because they didn't have full control. Helior and Optimus going at it.
Yeah, well, the Buster Shot has to come out. The Grand Challenge is there, but Optimus has got a lot of damage. The Static Shiv giving him so much attack speed as well means that Helior just can't close the gap without getting killed.
I was keeping my eye on mid lane there as well, because Archie was coming up from the river. They could have looked to engage, but I think there was a little too much safety for the LATAM team under their tower. But honestly, the LATAM team are playing pretty differently from how we've seen them in the last few days. They've gone for an Ezreal, which is a very different champion out of the AD carry pool we've seen. We've seen them play Vayne, we've seen them play a lot more scaling in that AD carry role, and White Lotus has been on point when he's been able to, you know, get the flashes forward on a scaling AD carry. I guess he can arcane shift forward on Ezreal. Oh, G4.
Yeah, Theak looking for it, but he's just going to get Frozen Tomb. Does get the Agony's Embrace down, flashes over the wall. Oh, Dark Passage is going to save the Evelynn as well. Beautiful play from the Latin Americans. A nice double stun from the Cosmic Binding from Moss, but Theak probably should have been dead.
Just enough to save them. Optimus at the meanwhile was pushing top lane in. Now the LATAM team can respond with a little bit of a push down mid, but they don't have Ezreal there, and Ezreal isn't exactly the best champion for pushing down turrets as it is. No real wave clear behind the tower though. Moss has been hooked.
Yep, Death Sentence is going to come in. White Lotus picks it up with an Arcade Shift, I believe. Teleport's coming in. G4's looking to try and pick something up. It doesn't have the ultimate. Helior's here. Grand Challenge not up just yet. Still a few seconds on that one as the spear lands. SOFM looking to pounce his way in. Trying to close the gap. That's the Rune Prison down. Seiya can't connect the Qs though. There's White Lotus very low on mana. Boy, those spears doing so much work. You don't expect it out of the jungler to have this much money, but he's got 84 CS.
He is really wealthy right now when it comes to it. And SOFM, he's got that Rune Glaive finished. Helior wants to fight.
Oh my gosh, look at the
Blue
burst
buff
to come out. Blue Sentinel might actually finish the job here for SOFM. There's going to be Seiya picking that one up. Optimus going for a flanking Tristana play. Not sure how that one works as Seiya flashes over the wall. He does have the passive up. The ultimate was there. Buster Shot. Oh, the True Shot barrage not enough. And Optimus somehow survives.
That was, I mean, Optimus with a little bit of fortune there on that one. I mean, in the respect that
he had his flash as well.
He had his flash, he had the jump, like everything. Optimus was, he knew he was fine in the end, but I don't think he knew the ward was there and wasn't really expecting that straight up. If he did somehow, that was kind of like the next level play.
Well, if he didn't know, then that's some crazy reaction time.
It is actually. I'll credit where it's due.
Most definitely, but Optimus going towards that rapid fire cannon after grabbing a BF sword. Sort of the standard, what Lex decided was the best way to build this Tristana as well, as he's sort of the one to look at. As, oh my goodness, Thunderlords. There's a massive creep wave here. White Lotus manages to take down the kitty cat. And SOFM getting a bit too big for his boots.
Yeah, he really is right now. I mean, he was in the enemy jungle earlier, got picked off. Now he's getting picked off trying to duel White Lotus, when a lot of the damage that comes from Nidalee in exchanges like that relies on you being on top of him, and Ezreal with a flash up, with Arcane Shift up, is pretty mobile when it comes to moving away from a Nidalee. So I'm quite surprised that SOFM is taking fights like this. I know he wants to play super aggressive with this Ignite Nidalee. Oh, Tempered Fate caught Theak. Can they follow up?
Dark Passage going to come in. G4 not able to get the Frozen Tomb off in time in the GPL. Not going to be able to get anything out of that ultimate from Moss. They still want to siege this turret. Has another 3 of Optimus' auto attacks in there. Oh, there's the Agony's Embrace. Arce trying to get in there. Frozen Tomb goes down. Seiya really wants to get amongst it, but Archie's right in there. Arce's going to die. It's the shutdown. 5 members of the GPL hanging out, and it's going to be a 2-for-0 and a turret.
At this point, 3-0-3 for Optimus on Tristana. Has a lot of bits of items plus a static shiv at this point, and man, the damage is insane. This Ezreal can't really match the damage output. Ryze hasn't quite yet got his 2 items either, so there really isn't too much on the way from the LATAM team that can actually deal with such a strong AD carry right now. I mean, Eve doesn't have any armor, isn't tanky at all. There really is no armor to speak of.
No, just not working. And Theak known to build full damage Evelynners at the same time. So Archie, now with this full tank build, going towards that Spirit Visage next, you have to think, is going to have so much cooldown reduction. And just so much tankiness that no one's going to be able to get through him. And Thiak being that squishy, that's always going to happen. The Frozen Tomb goes down and he's dead.
Oh, yeah.
That's just easy.
The same will happen to Helio. If Helio doesn't hit that riposte, we already talked about it, then Optimus is just going to be able to take him out in a matter of seconds. There is no real way of surviving that. Helio would have to make a massive outplay in that kind of situation.
Very good point. White Lotus, though, now with the 30% CDR. Zeal and Essence Reaver completed. We'll see whether he goes towards an attack speed item or whether he grabs that Trinity Force, which is what we'd expect. The White Lotus took so much damage just then. Optimus able to use the rocket jump to get away from Thiak. As G4 had made his presence known. That's a fully stacked Rod of Ages there as well for G4 in comparison to the 6 on Seiya.
And at this point, one thing actually in that little exchange on Tristana was Agony's Embrace wasn't available for Thiak. I would have liked to have seen perhaps if they'd have got the kill from that. Optimus did jump away, but that's a fair amount of damage that Thiak could have had extra. It was mainly about 5 seconds from coming up. So,
man.
Unfortunate for Thiak, but he'll have that available for a flank play should they be looking for it in the next few minutes. And you feel like they kind of have to. There is a fair amount of zone control that's going to come from this Nidalee using the traps, being able to control areas by throwing spears with the added vision control that the SCA team has. But Helio's going in on SOFM.
Yeah, he's going to actually proc that Grand Challenge there as well. Gets the healing, the Ignites down. Helio, the shield from the Dark Passage is going to survive, and Archie's being caught up by the Root Prison. Thiak trying to get in there. G4 in the meantime is going to take down Helio on the backside. Tempered Fate onto 3 members. G4 might have the rest of his team around here to deal with it. Seiya, oh my god, that burst damage was filthy. The GPL cleanup, it's a 4-0.
Easy fight for the GPL team. As soon as the beginning of that, Helio just took so much damage trying to trade it back onto the SEA squad. Now GPL actually going to go straight for the Baron. It's a fairly early one. Let's take another look at exactly how much damage came down at the late part. So SOFM manages to out-trade Helio until the ultimate gets popped in, and then in came Archie. I think G4 just flashed W's at that point by the looks of it, then ults himself to stay alive. Manages to deal with just about everybody, and here comes the burst damage right down onto Seiya. And that blows him up. So again, this is just the SEA team being so incredibly far ahead right now. And considering that the SEA team are actually already out of contention for the top of the table, it's a little bit disappointing this team didn't show up on the previous days. They did in day 1, but after that, they really didn't show up yesterday.
They dropped the ball a little bit yesterday. I don't know what it was. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep. Maybe they didn't have what Turkey had for breakfast this morning. Seems like they may have now. This is a dominating performance. Not quite the perfect showing that we saw, but we'll see. Latin America, the game isn't over. The Fat Lady has not yet sung Stress. And Rise scales very well. This is something that Latin America have done before, but look, looking very dire.
And at this point, they just step up to the tower with Tristana. We heard, I believe it was the CIS team, I think Lex was talking about it earlier, you get Baron buff and just push towers. Oh, G4.
Oh, he did actually proc the challenge, though. So much healing. G4 able to stop him. The auto attack's not enough. He's going to have the Q, not going to find him, and in the end, it's a stalemate.
What are the cooldowns looking like? I mean, I think G4 can still get that kill. Depends on whether Helio can riposte again.
Oh, Arce, he gets behind him. Death Sentence doesn't land. In the end, flash auto attack. Looks like the support player was able to do it.
They didn't get the bottom tower either. They were stepping up with the Baroned Up minions, with Optimus. They got the inner. They couldn't get the inhibitor. It is about 1 hit from dying from pretty much anybody from the Southeast Asian squad. But they are turning tail and running. G4 dying in the top side. It was a little bit too big of a distraction for SEA to keep pushing down bottom. But that objective is still very weak for them. That is going to fall over if you breathe on it at this point. But I mean, it's all on GPL to use the rest of their Baron buff. If this Southeast Asian squad can just swing top lane now with the Baron minions, with the Tristana, push that down, maybe just utilize the Hecarim up there and put the Tristana in the middle lane, you can actually get so much more done in the next minute or so of this Baron buff.
Yeah, not to mention with the rapid fire cannon and the spears as well, they've got a lot of siege potential underneath those turrets. Not to mention draw a bead. I mean, level 13 Tristana is going to have a fair, decent range. That Krug was pretty keen on Helior. Moss takes a lot of damage from the True Shot Barrage, but not too much. Static Shiv was actually what got picked up by White Lotus. I don't like it.
I'm not a fan of this build.
No.
I really am not a fan. I mean, this seems like he wants to be playing pretty much any other AD carry. I mean, you look at the likes of...
Well, he wants to be Ezreal. He just wants to have a Trinity Force, not a Static Shiv.
Right, but I mean that...
Yeah, it could be... it's a good Lucian build.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, it's one of the Lucian builds. Okay, it's not the Triforce of the Infinity Edge build that we've seen, but... I mean, okay, it'll work with his Q.
Yeah.
There's added wave clear, but Ezreal's never good at wave clear. That's his one.
Hey, True Shot Barrage is pretty good.
Sure, but if you can wave clear like once every 60 seconds, that's okay.
Yeah,
but
not so
the
great.
Remaining 60 seconds in every other
I didn't have
lane.
much follow-up stress.
No, it's fine.
That was all I had.
It's fine because neither do the LATAM team right now when you look at it.
Yeah, it's
all
very,
they've got an
true.
Ezreal with a Static Shift that's trying desperately to clear waves against a Tristana who's pushing turrets down incredibly. And now they've got an inhibitor tower that is still pretty low.
Oh, Jack's got the
Optimus
flank on Optimus here. Able to stop him. That Buster Shot in mid-air was brilliant. Optimus, of course, thought he was in trouble. Not actually. Oh, here's the engaged box goes down. Arce trying to create a zone of control. Boss very low. The Arcane Shift in from White Lotus, but he's very low on mana. He will just back away. Optimus split pushing there in the mid lane, as you can see. If he gets any spare time with the turret, he's going to have a very bad time. And that's Infinity Edge completed as well as the Rapid Fire Cannon Shiv and the Vampiric Scepter. Whew. This is a pretty strong Tristana, is what I sort of
just a little
meant to infer from there.
Just a tad strong right now for Optimus. He's actually just kind of using Rocket Jump whenever because he's expecting to get kills. He just hopped from the jungle into the lane just in case there was a fight.
Oh, Descent's landing on a G4. Can ult himself if he wants to. Frozen Tomb not even going to be needed. Just uses the claw to get himself to safety. Optimus, you can see, running interference on the side. By interference, I mean killing everyone. That is going to be the last auto attack. The crit from the rapid fire cannon going to deal with the turret.
Oh,
and this inhibitor is so dead.
Yeah, that's the inhib going down. Now they're probably going to look to recall and then swing back around once Baron is up. Dragon is pretty much a minor thought in the SEA team's mind right now. It's like, well, we could get a third Dragon of the game, or we'll get Baron and then end this pretty quick. It is what they should do, to be honest. Set up vision control, get a pick. They already have the wards to see exactly where the LATAM team is putting up the vision for themselves. So it should be a fairly clean-cut next sequence of events for SEA if they play their cards right.
I have a feeling they're just going to go and siege again somewhere else. I mean, they don't want to wait the 1 minute 20. That's ridiculous. That's so long. They need to be killing people. G4, you can see he's moving up the lane. Wants to start shooting people with his Q. He's found some minions.
That's all he wants to do. He's like, come on, let me shoot this blast of ice at you. Yeah. At least it's not the Korean Lissandra, because we haven't had to cast with, I mean, we're at it's basically the equivalent of like Serena Williams. We're at a tennis venue, so I guess that's the most apt thing, to just have Lissandra screaming around Summoner's Rift the entire time. So there's crossover, Max. There's crossover between tennis and League of Legends.
Well, it's both competitive,
yeah.
You know?
5 versus 5 tennis, I don't think will go so well.
No, I've heard of doubles, haven't heard of quintuples before. May work. Don't know. Spear going to go in the middle, but you can see this turret's so dead. Tempered Fate comes in, not going to find anyone, but does definitely deter the Latin American side from doing anything. It is going to be a flash out of Arce as well. So no flash plays, no flash death sentences to try and engage. GPL now going to move back, grab themselves the Baron. 10 seconds until that one's going to be up. And then move forward for the victory. You have to think 7 turrets have now fallen in their favor. Archie just being a horse.
It is right now. I mean, what this kind of highlights is that when ahead on 522, as long as you're actively looking for turrets, looking for objectives, there are very simple ways of closing out the game.
Buster Shot says goodbye, Theak. It is going to be, I believe, a crit out of Optimus. It probably did more damage than Smite. Which is going to actually end this one as White Lotus, he's going down incredibly low. Oh my god, Archie is able to close out that kill, but this Tristana's doing so much work. Arce falls down, White Lotus, uses a Scrying Orb as well. Ult too easy, says the Tristana. Rapid fire cannon going to come up pretty soon. He's going to be able to shoot that turret when he sees fit. You can see this one's not going to last too long. And the GPL ruining the day of the Latin American squad. So yeah, he's going to be able to take down Archie in the end.
No one saw that. No one saw it, SOFM. Don't worry. You're fine. Everybody saw it. But at this point, you are right. They are playing spoiler. Remember, that is pretty much the only thing the SEA team can do here when it comes to LATAM's performance. It'll also be a nice little way to end their own hopes in the standings, getting another win on the board. We'll, of course, grant them by extra points. We'll get an actual confirmation on the exact final standings, I believe, as we go throughout the day. But right now, it looks to be like the SEA team are going to prevent the Latin American team from joining the finals. But I mean, this is the GPL team we were expecting, the team from Southeast Asia that, you know, can do this and just show up and take control of a game. But I guess
it does make so much sense, though, doesn't it, Stress? Because, like, this is a team that we're expecting to be incredibly sporadic. We didn't quite know what to expect, and we've had
a sporadic team.
Completely different performances on either day, on any given game. You just don't know what's going to happen. Of course, G4 has played all sorts of different champions as well. SOFM has either stepped up or done weird things. And it's just fantastic to see. I love watching the Southeast Asian team play, is what I mean, because you always get variety.
It's the Forest Gump team in that you never know what you're going to expect.
Oh, goodness me, the Frozen Tomb has gone down as G4 is ulting himself. Archie, Temid Fate going to go down to White Lotus. Archie just would have liked to gallivant around a little more, but it's a double kill for G4 in the end. The resets are coming down. SOFM grabs one. It's a double also for Optimus. It's a clean ace, and this is going to be the game. Southeast Asian side able to deny Latin America their finals dream, and he's going to confirm CIS versus Turkey in our final. The GPL go down swinging in the IWCA.
They do, and I'm sad that that was the performance that we saw. I feel like it'd be an easier pill to swallow if the SEA team just hadn't shown up and LATAM had continued their performance.
And LATAM were looking so good earlier in the day.
They really were in the games earlier today, but the SEA region get themselves that final win for the day. Final win in the tournament, and it was a great performance from them. I mean, 8-0-8 on Optimus, on the Tristana. Where was this in some of the games that the SEA region just didn't
Well, it was still there. I believe Optimus almost had an undying performance, but they lost the game. He was 7-0-3 at the end of the game, but that was when their Nexus was falling down, and he eventually fell himself.
That is true. I like seeing SOFM coming up with the Ignite Nidalee. Not the most consistent of picks. I think sometimes that's not always going to do the work, but this time did show up big time. They come up with a win.
Yeah, they certainly do, and we are going to hear from the analyst desk as to what they think about the GPL's final victory.
Thank you very much, Atlas. And that was actually a brilliant performance coming out of the Southeast Asian region, and they really have played spoiler there.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, and my mic started working again, so here we are. Thank you very much, Atlas. I would like to call up the standings because we do have our final for tomorrow now locked in for the 5 versus 5 at least, because with that loss, Latin America cannot get to 4 wins, and as we see, Turkey and CIS have gotten to 4 wins, and that is the final we will see tomorrow. Sad for the LATAM squad because they were really ramping up throughout this tournament, but what ultimately went wrong for them here?
Yeah, that's actually really sad for the Latin American squad, because we said if they can get to late game that they're going to be able to win a lot of these games because their decision making around the map becomes very good, and they also team fight really well as a unit. But in the end, it was a lot of bad lane matchups. You know, Tristana very good at consistently auto attacking. Ezreal wants brief trades, and then you look at the top lane matchup, the Hecarim into Fiora. That seemed to be the one answer at Worlds as it was going on, and that certainly went in favor as well.
And I think in general, just to wrap it up, sorry, is that it's inconsistency, right? Like they were very good when they got to the spots where they could actually team fight, but inconsistent drafting, inconsistent laning, even some of the mid game was a little kind of dodgy at times, and clearly at their best they were very good, but at their worst it was kind of not enough, at least with this Southeast Asian team playing the way they were.
And like just to build off all of that, also not only did the laning phase go poorly, they were very inconsistent during that game. The second it actually came to team fighting, it also felt like this side were completely outdrafted, and Ezreal does no damage to a Hecarim that can afford to not even build armor then, because the Ezreal seriously just tickles him.
And with no AD carry bans on the table, that is a weird decision to me as well. And on the other hand, though, we got to commend the GPL for their good play here and a lot of good Bard play once again.
Yeah, there certainly was, and that was probably the one player all tournament long that was super consistent, was Moss. Like, he had really, really good games. You know, we saw him show up at Worlds on the Bangkok Titans and had another really good tournament, but the inconsistent factor for that team was their jungler. SOFM has had like 3 beautiful games and 3 really atrocious games, and you know, when you put them together, it just seems if he goes aggressive, he looks so much more comfortable around Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, when you put it together, it's 3 and 3.
I think to build off that a little bit further, not only was he engaging well, not only did the Bard do something yet again, and I am standing by the fact that Bard is the biggest issue right now in this entire tournament. Exactly, 2 charms just going off the chain. The actual engage for this whole thing was the Lissandra. And not only was he going in, using the Zonias and then being Bard ulted, which kept him in stasis for like 4 seconds, he was able to set everything up perfectly for the rest of the team,
and
including
I do believe that we have a replay of one of those moments that Pastry wanted to see.
Oh man, this was
just
nice such a sick play. So let's roll the clip. The fighting around Dragon, you can see that it's sort of jostling back and forth. Helio does the right thing, goes in on a threat here in SOFM, does get the proc, but great exhaust there from Moss to start things off. Magical Journey's out, and his team's kind of stuck here. Archie in the bottom right, having a lot of trouble, has to ulti away. Helio finally dies to G4 as he gets it, and then this play right here. G4 gets in stays, able to set up, and then that double binding to disgusting SOFM damage, and that's just cleaning house.
Yeah, and you saw how much more like useful the Tristana was in that situation, because straight away able to get the buster shot, knocks 2 people out of her face, gets the big crit across everyone as well, and really got to commend Optimus for, once again, another really good performance on Summoner's Rift. He's another player that was kind of hit and miss, but when he looked good, he was definitely up there.
But ultimately, GPL stronger here, but not able to make it to the final. Couldn't get to those 4 wins. Maybe some closing words on these teams. LATAM showing a lot of promise growth throughout the tournament, and also on the side of the GPL, some very standout players at some times.
Yeah, I think that both these teams can look at each other and think the things that they did well, we did poorly. GPL at times did not team fight like a team. They looked like they were 5 solo queue players running around Summoner's Rift. They looked like they were also having a lot of fun, which I respect out of them. Latin America, on the other hand, just they need to work on their laning phase. They were falling too far behind, and for a team fighting team, that's just not going to get it done.
Well, they are an all-star team, so I don't think they'll get a lot of time to work on that laning phase.
No, I just think that both of these teams can watch the VODs. They can definitely grow from this moment. And it's funny that Latin America are the guys that have been considered the team fighting team at this tournament, because coming into it in the lead up, they were just really good solo players. They're all considered to come in this win lane and then maybe lose team fights, but they did the exact opposite. So I think they can definitely learn from this.
A lot to learn, but they are out of the tournament. The final is set, but we have Oceania versus Turkey up as our last 5 versus 5 today after the break. Don't miss it.